Well, I'm so glad that you're here. This is going to be a very interesting conversation. And it's more of a conversation, it's more relaxed. We have our two candidates for Goodhue County Sheriff, Paul Gielau and Marty Kelley. Now, we are giving them about 2 minutes each for our questions, and then you'll all be able to ask your own. First question, and if you can't hear them, let me know. We've got the mic set up. Okay. And would you like to either stand or sit? That's either way, and you'll drive Dick nuts, of course.
Could you use the microphone, Rosie?
Use the microphone.
They would like the microphone. Okay.
To hear you.
Okay, let's start here, and we can just reverse this. Okay, first question. Why do you want to be?
They can't hear you.
Oh, good point. They keep me on my toes. They will also keep you guys on your toes. Okay. First question. Why do you want to be sheriff?
Thank you, Rosie. I think everybody can hear me. My name is Marty Kelley, you guys. I'm a 30-year veteran of the Red Wing Police Department. I ran for sheriff 8 years ago with the idea of mainly taking care of our people who take care of us and being a visible sheriff. Now that didn't work out for me, but eight years have passed, and that passion is still in me. It's gone stronger. I still do feel that our officers, jail staff, secretarial staff need the support from the administration to do a job effectively and to be able to serve you better. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, everyone, for attending this morning. My name is Paul Gielau. I'm the current patrol commander at the Sheriff's Office. I've been at the Sheriff's Office for 33 years, and I have 4 years of administration experience. The reason I chose to run for sheriff is we have some challenges at the Sheriff's Office with, Sheriff McNerlin retired in August. Chris Johnson is now our current sheriff, and he is also going to retire at the end of the year. So we have some challenges. And with my 33 years experience there, my goal is to we have 110 men and women that work for us, very good employees, very dedicated to the Sheriff's Office. They dedicate their lives, their careers to the Sheriff's Office. And what my goal is to bring some of our younger men and women into those administrative roles so that in the future, we don't have the turnover at the same time that we have now, because it is challenging. We're going to lose a few other people, I think, in January due to retirements. And so I feel with my experience, I can be a good mentor to them. I can be a good leader to them, give them the training, the experience they need to lead the Sheriff's Office in the future. We've had a very good Sheriff's Office that started many years ago under Sheriff Whipperling, Sheriff Albers, Sheriff McNerlin. We've run a good organization, and we're dedicated to our people. We care about them. They care about us. We run a good office, and I want to see that continue in the future. Thank you.
What do you think is the most important skill of being a good sheriff?
Well, guys, the most important skill obviously is leadership, and you don't get leadership from being in an office. What you get leadership from is 30 years boots on the ground experience, and what you're looking at in me is a 30-year veteran with road experience, with investigative experience, SWAT team experience, medical examiner experience, field training officer experience. All those experiences that I was afforded to be able to do have helped me develop into a leader. And that's the biggest aspect that I bring to the table is I'm able to lead and know what it's like out here. I know what it's like on the road. I know what works. I know what doesn't work. And I'm excited to show our new people. And like Paul said, the turnover in the county's offices are going to be 5 of the top 6 administrators are leaving. You're going to have some other retirements. One of the biggest issues is going to be filling those spots for the next 7 months. As you know, it's hard to hire people. So that's going to be the main objective at this point, come January, is to fill a bunch of spots. So we need to be able to look at the people that are coming in and be able to mentor them, lead them. And for those people that want to be police officers, God bless them, because this isn't an easy job. It's changed since I've been around for 30 years, and we need to take care of those people through their full 30-year career. And I'm that person to be able to do that. Thank you.
Well, I think one of the good skills is to be a good leader is, again, to mentor, to lead by example, but also to listen to the employees. The leader doesn't always have to be out front. Sometimes we can let the people below us, let them lead. They need to get the experience, and you can follow a little bit, and let them take charge. And so a good leader will listen to their people to understand their needs and what we need, but to not just be the top and expect them to follow the sheriff, but let them go out and grow their wings a little bit too. And because at point, there's times where they need to also lead their divisions. And a good sheriff, and I really learned this through Forrest Whipperly when he was sheriff. I watched what he did. He surrounded, and all of our sheriffs have done that, you surround yourself with good support. So you bring in the best current employees that you have, and you bring in for good support. And when you have good support around you, things will work well.
Why don't you stay there a minute? I think the next question is going to follow in that. You probably answered it. What's the biggest need of the Sheriff's Department, and how would you fill that need?
Well, and I did answer that in my opening statement. I think my opponent also referred to it, is the number of retirements that our office is facing. I've addressed that, and I think everybody understands that, so I'm going to jump to something else, just to talk about another topic about what is needed. Sheriff's offices throughout, and all police agencies, the mental health crisis that we're experiencing right now is at an all-time high level. And what I'm talking about is the number of beds that are available for us to take people that are suffering from not just a mental illness. It could be somebody it could be an adolescent that's suicidal and needs some treatment. There just aren't beds available. And the challenges for us are and it's so unfair to these families. We are taking these kids sometimes to Thief River Falls. We're taking them Duluth. We're taking them to Wilmer, because that is the only available beds that we have, and it's unfair.
What I've found, you guys, is the biggest need of the Sheriff's Department right now is communication. I think we're lacking in communicating with the citizens. I think we're lacking in communicating with our staff. We have to keep our people informed, and we have to keep you guys informed. We have so many tools at our disposal nowadays that there's no reason we can't keep you guys informed. TRIAD does a great job of that, but we need to do this countywide, whether it's TRIAD in every town, or or social media. But we're going to get the word out to you what's happening at our level, and we're going to keep our staff informed. We're actually going to have meetings. We're going to sit down face to face. We're not going to email, and we're just going to communicate. That's the biggest need in that Sheriff's Department right now.
What are the most significant law enforcement issues facing Goodhue County over the next term?
Most significant, what did you say?
Law enforcement issues. I'm thinking opioids and things like that, but I'm not sure.
Well, one of the biggest issues facing the county that's been our problem's been 20, 25 years or so, obviously, is the drugs. Methamphetamine is clearly the #1 drug of choice. It's easy to get, it's cheap, and we're seeing that in 95% of our cases. And we take meth off the street in Red Wing on a daily basis, if not every other day. So it's out there. We need to get out to the schools. We need to educate. We need to put staff. If we need more staff for drug investigations, then I say we do that. At this point, we're always behind the 8 ball. They're always one step ahead of us, and we have to. Is that my time, Ray? No? Anyway,
Somebody else.
the drug dealers are always one step ahead of us, and we have to stay on their heels. And are we ever going to get ahead of them? I'm not sure, but we are certainly going to try. Thank you.
Sorry about that. I'm not sure where that sound is coming in. You've got my question here?
I-
Significant law enforcement? I let him read over my shoulder, okay. This is kind of informal. If you
And I think
haven't
the
done-
significant law enforcement challenges, I just touched on one, and I think the mental health thing is a big one, so I'm going to not use that again. But I would agree, the drug problem that not only this county sees, but counties throughout the United States see. I worked, for 6 years, I worked investigations. I was primarily, I worked narcotics, so I understand the problems we have in narcotics. By continuing to put these people in jail, it's not working. It just rotates through and through. One thing, I was part of the steering committee on a drug, or a treatment court, I shouldn't say drug, but a treatment court in Goodhue County. I was part of that steering committee. We've been working together for over a year now. We applied for a grant. We didn't get it the first time, but within the past month, we did get a $500,000 grant to be used over the next 4 years to start a treatment court. I'm very excited for this. We have to try to do something, especially, and I say with mothers of children, we have to try to, the children are in foster care, the mother's in jail. We need to get her treatment. We need to get the kids out of foster and the family back together. But not only with treatment, there's two other very important components. In order for them to be successful, we also have to afford them housing, and we have to get them employment. Because they can be sober, but if they don't have a place to sleep at night, they're going to crash on somebody's couch, and then that's not going to work for their sobriety. And if they don't have a job, they're going to go back to selling drugs because they need to make money. So if we can accomplish all those three things, I think we can do something with people's lives to change them around a little bit. So I'm excited about this treatment court getting started, and hopefully it works for Goodhue County.
Okay, stay there. Yeah, they're covered. How can you reduce the time law enforcers must spend in court so they can be patrolling and investigating?
I'm not sure that we can reduce the number of time that officers are spending in court. Obviously, through good training, through good report writing, and making good arrests, hopefully that keeps them out of the courts. But if a person that does get arrested, they have a right to their day in court, and then the officer is required, to be there. So that's kind of a difficult. It's a good question, but it's a very difficult one to try to keep them from going to court, because it's just again, the defendants have a right, or anybody does, to have their day in court, and for the prosecution to proceed, whoever made that arrest, they need to be there.
I don't think that keeping the officers out of court is really a problem. We don't testify very regularly. I think any officer out there can attest. Have you heard of plea bargaining? Okay, that happens all the time. Our officers aren't called to court. You might have one every 3 months. And that's probably an aggressive officer. So we don't really, that's really not an issue at this point. It hasn't been in my 30 years, and I don't see it changing.
Thank you. Now, you know that I Googled for these questions and ran them through a lot of people in TRIAD, so. What can you do to increase the cooperation and improve the relationships between the sheriff's office and other law enforcement agencies in the county?
Well, I'm big on developing relationships, and by developing relationships, you build that trust with people, you build that trust with different departments. I can happily say that I've been to every town in this county and built several relationships that are going to pay off in the long run, specifically if I'm elected sheriff. I went to Stanton after the storm a few weeks ago and just helped a random farmer clean up. Those are the types of relationships that I want to foster. I came to Cannon Falls for your community cleanup day. I spent 9 hours here helping. That's how we develop relationships. That's what a good leader will do, and that's what I plan on keep doing. Thank you.
We have very good relationships now with the outside agencies, the Red Wing Police Department, Cannon Falls Police Department, Zumbrota, Goodhue, Lake City. We are there to help them if they need it. We're never there to go in and take over. That's not what the Sheriff's Office does. But we are there to help them when they need it. Obviously, smaller towns, when bigger crimes happen, they need to reach for outside help. And also comes money sometimes. And we have that to offer with our investigators. We can come in and help these agencies. So the chiefs, we have a very good relationship with the chiefs. There's a chiefs meeting that the sheriff and usually I go to that occurs several times a year where we get to talk about different things that they may see they need. So we have a very good working relationship with not only the chiefs, but our deputies get along with the officers well, and that's going on. I worked the road for 20 years. It happened back then, and it still happens today.
Last question. Given our budget constraints, how would you stretch our taxpayer dollars and still deter crime?
Well, we do have a set budget. The sheriff's office is $13 million, or I think it's not quite that this year, but it will be next year. I think we use our money, obviously with 110 employees, that does eat up quite a bit of that budget. But we have the tools we need. Every year, we try to make purchases. We have a capital plan that is laid out in a 3-year cycle. So we look at what we need this coming year, the year after that, and we push things back. We can move those things around, to try to get different equipment if we need it. One thing we do is we take advantage of the nuclear plant in Goodhue County is a good thing for several reasons. The tax base, but also we get some grants once in a while. They're a very good partner with us, but there's a port security grant that it's a federal grant. We just recently applied for a boat out of that, and we were awarded $69,000 to purchase a boat out of our 2020 capital. What that does is that means we can now take that out of capital, and it saves everybody in this room that's a Goodhue County taxpayer the burden of purchasing that 69. It was a boat and a motor, but it just takes that out of there. So we aggressively look at ways to also get outside funding to help fund the things we need. But our officers have the things they need. We're working on a few new things too, but we try to make sure that they have what they need to work out there.
Okay, we're ready for questions from the audience. I have a couple up here, but has anybody got? Delegation is an important part of a sheriff's job. What tasks will you delegate and what tasks will you handle yourself? We'll start here, left, right.
Okay.
Well, I think the tasks that I would handle myself are, dealing with administrative things. There's certain times city administrators will call. We contract the city of Pine Island. We contract the city of Wanamingo. We have small contracts with Denison and Belchester. There's times the sheriff needs to communicate with them. There's times the sheriff needs to go to meetings. In regards to budgeting, we meet several times a year on the budget. The whole budget committee does. But there's things you need to delegate too. The office, any good business, any good office has to be able to run when the sheriff isn't there, or if the chief deputy isn't there, or if the patrol commander isn't there. The other administrative people need to know how to take care of things, and that's what happens now. So there are certain things you delegate, and again, by delegating, you're giving those employees below you, working with you, the opportunity to gain that experience. And again, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to give our younger officers the experience they need to run the sheriff's office for the future. And so you need to give them tasks. It's important to do that.
I heard throughout this campaign, going to the towns, a lot of people don't know who the sheriff is. That's the truth. The sheriff needs to be visible, the sheriff needs to be accountable, he needs to be with his constituents, come to these types of meetings. Each department within the county has a supervisor, whatever you might want to call it, chief deputy, captain, whatever. I'm not going to micromanage them. When I find people that I'm going to put in those positions, they're there for a reason. They know what they're doing. If they need help or advice from me, I'm going to give it to them. And I'm certainly going to give them the tools that they need to do that particular task. And that's all I'm going to run.
When are you getting body cameras?
Well, I said before, we have to do a complete audit. The body cameras aren't necessarily the big expense here, you guys. If you know anything about computers, the memory is unbelievable and costs money. So we need to weigh the pros and cons of body cameras and the cost to store the video in the cloud. I guess it's expensive.
That is the downfall of body cameras or any camera, the storage is. We budgeted in 2018 to purchase body cameras for our patrol division. I think we ordered 23. There's a hang-up with the company that we're using. They developed the most and greatest body camera, but they ended up having trouble with it. We were supposed to have those delivered in April. I received an email from the company rep the other day that they're putting them out, I believe, this month. They're gonna run a 30-day trial, and then they're gonna go to production again to try to get the bugs out of these. So we did budget for it. We've budgeted for it actually for several years. We just haven't been exactly happy with the product that was out there, and so we've rolled that money through a couple of years. But we did actually, I think I signed off on it. They gave us a deal if we ordered them in 2017, which I did. We paid for them this year, but they just haven't rolled them out to us. So we are going to get body cameras. It's important to have these things documented, but with them does come, it's not the cost of the body camera, it is the cost of the storage. I just saw where an agency, and it must have been pretty big, but they were going to have to add 14 additional employees because they added body cameras. Now, I'm not suggesting that we're going to have to order any, but it's because of the data requests that then come in for this. Some of that information that's on these cameras, obviously there's some private things on there, they need to be redacted. So we have to take some of that stuff off of there before we can release it. There's also some of it's private, some of it's confidential, some of it's public. You need to go through that. So body cameras are very good because it does show what happened, it records what happened, but there's a lot that also comes with them.
Marty Kelley, you were put on paid administrative leave. My question is simple. How do you get put on paid administrative leave, get charged with some crime, yet you know nothing about the charges, I'm told? Have you heard anything about it? I'd like to know how that's possible, that you get charged with something and don't know what it is.
Some of you may or may not have heard, on Friday I met with a captain of mine who read me a letter saying that I am being accused of some unknown misconduct, promptly took my gun, took my keys, and walked me out the door. I've had 30 years of experience. This has never happened to me. I have 2 oral reprimands on my file for 30 years. And to suggest 30 days before a general election that an officer without any discipline on his record gets walked out without an explanation is suspicious at best. I'm being told by a union that the city doesn't have to tell me for 30 days what I'm being accused of. So I can tell you right now that I don't know. The only people that know would be my chief and my council administrator and whoever made the allegations. So I'm not charged, and I don't know. I'm just telling you, it's out there. I don't know why, it's suspicious. but we're gonna keep taking the high ground on this. I'm allowed to campaign. I'm gonna campaign. And we're gonna win this, so thank you.
I've taken the high ground the whole time on my campaign. You folks might not know this, Marty and I are classmates. Our kids are about the same age, but I have nothing to do with this. Before the primary, I was informed by Sheriff McNerlin that the Republican Eagle was gonna pull personnel files, or was pulling my personnel file. I didn't ask any questions because it's public information. They have a right to do that. You could go in and make a data request for my personnel file, and what is public can be released. The Republican Eagle pulled it. It's my understanding from reading the paper, they pulled Marty's. They also pulled Josh Stairs. And again, this was before the primary. That's all I know. I have nothing to do with this.
I'll read it. Can you describe your involvement, if any, in the recent critical event of the death of a grandma and her 2 grandkids in Prairie Island?
So, about a month ago, there was a motor vehicle crash out in Prairie Island on County Road 18. I was involved in that. I was working that Saturday or Sunday, where 2 young children died and their mother. With my experience, and I was a coroner investigator for 8 years during my 30 years, so I've seen a lot of crashes. Unfortunately, in 30 years, and being the coroner, that was the worst crash I've ever been to. Now, knowing that, when I showed up, unfortunately, there was 2 young Prairie Island police officers on the scene. One had 6 months of duty under his belt. I immediately recognized that and got him away from the scene and just directed him to do another task away from the scene. What typically happens after this, and it doesn't happen very often, we have what we call a debriefing. We sit around the table with the people who are involved. I've been involved in 2 or 3 in my career, but it should have been a lot more. Seeing what I've seen and seeing what our officers have seen in 30 years, it takes a toll on your body, it takes a toll on your mind. What doesn't happen after these debriefings is any follow-up from your chief, your sheriff. It just kind of lays there and sits, and you sit there, and these incidents just fester in you. It's called secondary trauma, and it does affect everybody. We're not bulletproof people, we're humans, but what we need to do is follow up and follow up and follow up and make sure these young kids are being taken care of. Now, after that follow-up, or after that debriefing, I personally sat in the debriefing. I personally followed up with the officers, and I'm still following up with the officers, and I'm going to do that until I know that they're okay. Thank you.
I was not at that accident, but as part of the administration, I was made aware of the severity of that accident early on. We had one thing that our sergeant there was there recognized. We had a deputy that responded to that crash that has children about the same age of those that had passed away. He was able to remove that deputy to go to the hospital to do some follow-up so we can kind of, move people around the best we need to. But I believe that happened it was a weekend. I'm not sure if it was a Saturday or Sunday, but we did, I met with, I don't remember if it was McNerlin or if Chris Johnson was the sheriff then, but I met with them right away, and Chris scheduled the debriefing. He got a hold of the company that does these critical incident debriefings for us. He got a hold of them. They said they would come and do it, but then we also have to reach out to our employees to ask them if they want to attend. We don't make this mandatory for them to come to. Everybody deals with it a little different. Some choose to come, some don't. But there were a few that wanted to come, so we held this, and we invited every agency that was there. We invited them, and I heard it was a very good deal. We also have an employee assistance program that if we see that an employee, you know, not even dealing with a type of thing like this, a crash, but if they're having some stress in their life from something else, which happens, we have an employee assistance program that is confidential, and we can get our employees, we can at least offer it to them. Again, we don't force it on them, but we offer it to them to make sure that they're taken care of.
Do you have a closing statement?
Sure.
Okay. And now do we have to throw a thing to decide who closes first? They're cool, okay?
Yeah, I hadn't prepared for a closing, but I will say this in closing. Again, I've been with the Sheriff's Office for 33 years. I grew up in Red Wing. My wife grew up in Red Wing. We continue to live there. During my time at the Sheriff's Office, I've worked many of our divisions. I worked as a jailer dispatcher when I first started. I spent 20 years on the road. 13 of those I was a supervisor. I spent 6 years in investigations working narcotics. And the past 4 years I've been part of the administration. And so I have a very good understanding how the Sheriff's Office works. I have a very good relationship with the communities that we serve. I just met with the city of Wanamingo. We redid a contract with them to provide their police services for the next 3 years. I met with the city of Pine Island. They also extended their contract for another 3 years. We've contracted Pine Island for, I think, 44 years. They haven't had a police department in over 44 years. And so, you know, we do work well with them. That will continue with my experience, especially the administrative experience I have. I think I'm a very good candidate to be your next sheriff, and I look forward to it. Thank you.
I think some of you remember Forrest Whipperling. Some of you might not know this, but he came from the Red Wing Police Department, and that's the department that I'm with now. We all agree that he did a good job, but what you need to realize is not being from the department is an asset to me. I don't have allegiances to any staff. I don't have allegiances to any vendors that we use right now. I'm going to go in and get the best possible people to be on my staff. I'm going to get the best possible services that we provide to the county without having anything, no allegiance to them people. And I think if we want to have any change, we have to go with someone who has 30 years boots on the ground experience, develops relationships, and has proven to want to be part of your community. Thank you.
Thank you, and now we'll get into our regular meeting.
Thank you.
You guys can relax.
All right.